I was going to say in regard to what Sister Delilah said about want. Something that you just said, silence is agreement? Or
Consent.
Silence is consent. So with that in mind, the statement from the Circle 7, the want of good is evil. The want, knowing, without doing the etymology on it, want on what I know of it meaning now, is a lack of action. So I'm sitting here wanting good, which is the same thing as silence is doing nothing. You know, you're sitting there wanting without having any action. It's almost like you're agreeing with the evil. So you have to have action to pursue good, to be in agreement with good. But that's just how I read the statement.
Yeah, that's one thing I like about class. That's why I like interactive classes. That's why I like y'all to talk back. Because you, her, him, and me just said the same thing. You know what I'm saying? When he said, hate every bad action. And I said, all right, cool, I understand, but what we gonna do? And then she said, the want of good is evil, the lack of good is evil. And here you are saying, without actually doing any good, don't complain about the evil.
Right.
So silence is acquiescence, silence is consent. So we all saying the same thing. Just your perception is yours. His perception is his, hers is hers, and mine is mine.
But where is truth, though?
Where is truth? In each one of our hearts.
Having action towards good.
The truth is in each one of our hearts. It's up to us to bring out that truth. Once we start to bring out that truth, see, the problem with truth is going to be acceptance, and then it's going to be responsibility. Because if you accept the truth, then now you got to do something about what's wrong. And people don't want to be responsible for what's wrong. They rather say, and walk off.
I have a question, and that was pertaining to King James version of that Bible, and what Taj was just talking about. My question is, what is the demonic version of the Bible that he put out at the same time of that, King James?
Oh, that demonology or something like that?
Yeah.
First, back to the Kabbalistic basis. Daemon only means God of the lesser light. It doesn't mean what the masses
Yeah,
mean.
I'm aware of that.
The other thing, so that people don't get spooked up about the book, this is the other thing that all high priests learn. All of them. So don't get confused because they say they're in the mosque or the written synagogue or the church. All of them, one of the most protected secrets amongst the entire priesthood is that the devil is a myth.
Says that right? Let's keep reading. We gotta breeze through this and get that song just a little bit. Man is the thought of Allah, that's where we stop. All thoughts of Allah are infinite. They are not measured up by time, for things that are concerned with time begin and end. The thoughts of Allah are everlasting, of the past into the never-ending days to come. And so is man, the spirit man. But man, like every other thought of Allah, was but a seed that held within itself the potencies of Allah, just as the seed of any plant on earth holds deep within its attributes every part of that special plant. So spirit man, as a seed of Allah, held deep within himself the attributes of every part of God. Now, I'm gonna stop right there. And when I read this poem earlier, did anybody say anything about God or anything about the Creator?
No.
No. Well, I only read this so far. Before class, I read it to 3 people: Naboo, Sabrina, and Mother Atia Ola. So when I read it to Mother Atia Ola last night, she was adamant. You're talking about God. Now, the one thing I know about that type of art, when you're writing, I know what I wrote about. And that's what I wrote about. But whatever you read about is what you read about. So I can't say that there's no right or wrong answer, because your perception is yours. Mine is mine. Now, right here, it says, every man, like every other thought of Allah, was but a seed that held within itself the potencies of Allah, just as the seed of any plant of earth holds deep within itself the attributes of every part of that special plant. So spirit man, as a seed of Allah, held deep within himself the attributes of every part of God. How many people clear on that? How many people are clear that the God that people are searching for, not us, but the people that we know that are searching for this one particular or one special God to come back and just post up in the clouds and say everything is going to be all right? How many people in there are clear that that God is inside of you?
I'm clear. I'm clear.
We're
Clear.
just talking to the lady.
We miss that.
That
In us, in all of us. And the thing is, we have to go within ourselves and say, love ourselves. And put the love, because we're conditioned to hate ourselves.
right?
So we have to outlove the hate
Right.
that we have been being conditioned. Now, when you get to that point, everything in you is innate. It comes up in you. You may not know, but there's something that gives you that feeling, and you know, and it comes up out of you.
So that's like what Taj was saying, the lower in yourself.
Absolutely. So that's why I said here, next, learn you, love you, because on you I can never run out.
Right.
Now, that line right there
That's what that.
could absolutely make somebody think, and I'm talking about the creator,
That's key.
right? Now, I ain't saying that I ain't, but that line right there, learn you and love you, because like he said, we've been conditioned to hate ourselves. Listen, somebody just told me about some lady had her hair permed up, right? But she had a little daughter's hair was natural. And the little girl said, oh, I gotta wear my hair like this, why yours is all nice and shiny and straight, and why? For whatever reason, the little baby hates her hair, but she loves mommy's hair. She doesn't know that her ancestors' hair was like that. She don't know that it's not really ugly. She don't know that society said it was ugly.
Right.
Mommy didn't say it was ugly, and nobody else told you it was ugly. So mommy didn't have no choice. Mommy cut all her hair off and started off natural with the baby to get rid of that hate that's indoctrinated her and start teaching her to love herself.
Can I interject? Because this is in support of both things. And this is why, again, in emphasizing why it's important to know the Kabbalistic basis. So one, you must know that Allah is woman. That's number one. Number two, the energies that she experiences becomes the seasons or the elements that she makes in the womb to make you. You're looking at the cycle, lets you know yourself because you see the aspects, the conjunctions, the sextiles, etc. You see the strengths and the weaknesses. You don't guess it, you know it. That's what the science is. And by knowing it, then you know yourself, then you see the weak sides, and you see the strengths you polish, and the weaks you build up. The weak points and that action or that building, character building, is really what true religion is. It's not based on just mere feeling, it's based on a knowing. Thus, man, know thyself.
Yes.
And this is also why the high priest won't tell people that the word church is Germanic for the circle, for the very circle they're supposed to use to study themselves.
Yes.
And this is where the lesser light comes in, or like you say, the daemon or the priesthood of the lesser light, because they're actually hiding the truth. There need not be confusion. They need to stop messing with people's heads and tell them the truth, what this stuff means, so that man might know himself. And it's because we don't know ourselves that confusion is what causes the stress and the sickness, and why we don't like ourselves. And because the confusion logically creates dissettlement. And so the high priests feed on that and be calling it evil when actually just simply a lack of knowledge.
My question is more towards Taj. With Allah being a maternal or a woman, does that play into the fact that in the womb we are not men up until a certain point? That's right.
First question in this questionnaire, 101. Who made you? First question. Allah. right? Next question. Because he's really giving you the Kabbalistic lessons.
Who is Allah?
Yeah, who is Allah?
The Father of the universe.
Father of the universe. So now when you look at the Kabbalistic basis, father comes from pater, which is actually paternity, which is a process and not a gender. But if you don't know the language, you take it as gender. It is actually the process of creation. And so you already know the elements that your mother brings, you know, and this is why it's used with the crescent moon and Venus, because those are the two major planets that govern the womb of woman, also the economies on the earth, the waters, etc. And so once you understand that and you look at the elements and you know yourself, you learn to love yourself because now you have understanding. That's why it says get wisdom, get knowledge, but above all get understanding. And it's the lack of the understanding that causes the fears, and the fears causes the darkness. It's a lack of knowing. But I'm only saying that to say the importance of people having a knowledge that the books are Kabbalistic, because if they don't, that's what creates all the confusion.
Right.
And it was once you understand that they're Kabbalistic, and the time is taken to give people a Kabbalistic foundation, they can understand all of the
That's right,
books.
that's
The
right.
confusion is done.
That's right.
And it need not be just mentioned circumstantial, you know, in classes like this, which it makes these classes necessary. However, give the people the foundation tools, meaning that we keep giving people formulas without teaching them how to count.
Right.
You know, and this is where it's talking about where Yahshua said he's a carpenter, because he's using the compass and the square to walk around the circle. Because those are the rules. And they're divine rules. They have nothing to do with opinion. They are the divine rules of all creation. And so when you look at that, this is why even how it's broken back down, like if you know language, right? Anything AH is feminine. You know, but the priesthood have created the dogmata of making people look at the duality in nature from a carnal perspective rather than your positive and your negative forces that are in the universe. But yet, at the same time, if they give you the Kabbalistic lessons, that you recognize that in the spiritual realm, what we consider in our minds, the way they're telling you now, the masculine and feminine doesn't exist that way. You know, this is why they even tell you, for high priests all know that the first beings here were hermaphrodite. Do you understand? And that all of us came from our mother. Everything is rooted in mother. And they're trying to tell you that again, even with this movie Lucy, because it's the feminine principle. Lucy is actually Lucifer, which is actually the light bearer, not negative. It's actually an enlightenment. You know, so everything the priesthood has made have messed things up so bad that it's hard for people to read these books because they keep looking at them from a connotative perspective that was set forth by the very priesthood that they think is leading them to the light, and they're the real vampires. You know, and this is why they have a pull pit. They don't even hide it. It's just that people they believe them, and they're giving you this story again. This is really the Kabbalistic story of the Nazarene. Whereas if you look at the masses when they're talking about that Bible, right? If they don't know the Kabbalistic basis, first thing they're saying, oh, Jesus came and he was helping everybody. And then the devil came, took all his peanut butter sandwiches and all this sort of stuff, right? And a child can look at the book and a child will say, the devil didn't do nothing. That was the priesthood that set him up. That was the priesthood that met with the Romans in secret and plotted his death. It was the priesthood that slandered his character. It was the priesthood that was worried about him telling the common people the truth. It was the priesthood that he went to and told them stop lying and doctoring up the law. And who got the blame? The devil. And adults very busy arguing about the devil, and a child could see it's the priesthood. You know, and it's like, and one of the hardest things to do is get people to get out of their blindness that the priest did to them and start seeing them vampires for who they really are. You know, even right when we're, that's an example, because I don't want to burden this, but because you got to bring this into the carnal realm. This is why, like when you're looking at the secret treaty of Verona, you look at the Article 3, and the entire clergy, they're delivering these people to the popes of Rome.
That's right.
and the general masses are under the impression that they're delivering them to Jesus. Do you understand? And yet, that's documented. They're pledged to the Pope of Rome. And no different, you can take a child to a dictionary, an ordinary dictionary, and show that the priesthood made that creed up 325 years after they murdered the Nazarene, and that they're worshiping Constantine and his mother, talking about they're worshiping Jesus. We're not even talking about deep research. So I'm only saying that to say this. We've got to look at the Circle 7 Quran as a healing book.
Yes.
But if you're not given a Kabbalistic basis, we'll study for years and years and years and keep going in circles, because we're looking at it with the connotative lens given to us by the priesthood, who we have not suspected is the real vampire. And it's uncomfortable when people get into the real truth, because it will overturn institutions, if you understand. But the institutions are the illusion. That's the false matrix that they put us in. So I'm only saying that so that we can look at this Kabbalistically. And so this is, again, why when you read the Circle 7 Quran, you read it in partnership with the 101s. But look at them Kabbalistically. It'll save you a lot of time, a lot of trouble. And even when you look at the Circle 7, look at the cover. Look at the Circle 7 with your 4 gates. That's the Great Circle, or the 7th seal. So the opening of the 7th seal is you understanding the abstract of those 4 gates where you see the circle broken. That simply represents the abstract. And then where you see the physical lines, that represents the aggregate. Now, if you were looking at it from an aggregate perspective, you would actually put a cross through the abstract, which would represent the aggregate. Now, that would be the Holy Cross. And then when you see the stem of the cross being lowered, that's because you're in the carnal realm, or the focus that's on the carnal realm. And so when you, just like SetenRa was saying earlier, you know, in relationship to how to look at the truth that's in the Bible. You don't look at it as false or even contradictory. It only is contradiction because the people aren't given keys. And so it's like taking somebody and doing like this, and you're giving them actually truths, but just by not telling them that it's Kabbalistic, you know, you've blinded them, and then it creates confusion, and then the priesthood put on their dark robes, you know, and just like little vampires, they're just preying upon the weak, and then, you know, you better put your turtleneck on because they're coming for you. You know, then they even when they do the ritual of the body and the wine, they eat the bodies of the people and then they drink their blood. And the people think it's some kind of holy thing. They're really doing a ritual of what they really do. They do that to babies in reality in secret. And these people go to them for so-called spiritual understanding. They're really, for real, vampires. This is why the world's in darkness, because the people won't render unto Caesar what is Caesar, meaning they won't give that Bieskidorf back and go back to the principles of their ancient mothers and fathers, because if they did, they'd immediately find out that this stuff is Kabbalistic. They wouldn't reject the books, they would reject the priesthood,
Yes.
who have tampered with the
Yes.
books.
Yes.
That's the message.
Yes.
Excuse me. Go ahead.
Todd's the only person that can talk that long in my class. Everybody else, I cut you through.
Oh, wait.
We're gonna read a little more. I definitely want to get into chapter 3, so we can don't switch to it. We're gonna finish up what we started, but so we can get to that higher and lower self before we move on. So I'm gonna just go ahead and breeze through this and stop me if you need to. Now, seed are perfect, yea, as perfect as the source from which they came, but they are not unfolded into the light made manifest. The child is as perfect as the mother is. So man, the seed, must be deep planted in soil that he might grow, unfold as does the bud unfold to show the flower. The human seed that came forth from the heart of Allah was foreordained to be the Lord of the plane of soul and the plane of things made manifest. So Allah, the husbandman of everything that is, threw forth his human seed into the soil of soul. It grew apace, and man became a living soul, and he became the Lord of all of the kingdom of soul. Hark! Now, let every creature hear. The plane of soul is but the ether of the spirit plane vibrating not so fast. And in the slower rhythm of this plane, the essence of life are manifest. The perfumes and the odors, the true sensations and all of the love are manifest. And these soul attributes became a body beautiful. A multitude of lessons man must learn upon the plane of soul, and here he tarries many ages until his lessons are all learned. Upon the boundary of the plane of soul, the ether began to vibrate slower still, and then the essence took on a final guard. The perfumes and the odors and the true sensations and all of the love were clothed in flesh, and man was clothed in flesh. Perfected man must pass through all the ways of life, and so a carnal nature was full manifest, a nature that sprang forth from fleshy things. I'll slide back up a little bit where it says a multitude of lessons man must learn upon the plane of soul. And here he tarries many ages until his lessons are learned. What does that mean?
Wisdom comes with experience.
You said it again?
A multitude of lessons man must learn upon the plane of soul. Here he tarries many ages until his lessons are learned.
So you graduate from the plane of soul, you're going to be there.
Until you graduate from the plane of soul, you're going to be here. Anybody else?
Something like that.
We manifested here for a reason.
That's true.
You've had to have lived and experienced things to gain the wisdom, to learn.
Get to the next level.
Because it say here with tarries with many ages until his lessons are learned.
Many ages. Many ages.
Many ages, probably, if we don't get it right, we're going to have to keep coming back down here.
Thank you. Thank you. If you don't get it right, you'll be back.
That's
Like
what
failing
the
a
energy
class.
says.
So,
Where's that?
I said like failing the class. I got an F in biology. I got to take it again next year. So essentially what it's saying is if you don't get it right this time, you'll be back. And until you get it right, you're going to keep on coming back.
I'll be
I
back.
always felt like that.
You're going to keep on coming back. So then people say, you know, you be like, damn, I did this.
Deja vu.
Better do it different.
Or what's even funnier, you ever felt like you knew somebody?
Yes, that's what I was gonna say.
I want to say
You said,
something.
oh, I know you from somewhere, and I never seen you before in my life.
Now, even better is this one. You ever dream and you ain't got a clue who the hell these people are in your dream? But you, it's some kind of closeness you feel like you know them. One of my master teachers, Inquisition Jehotimas, told me that you can actually access every last one of your ancestors. It's part of your DNA.
I like the flesh.
They're part of your DNA. So when you dream and you come across them, hey, all right, man, hey, I ain't seen you in 300 years. All right, you keep it moving. Because you'll be back until you get it right.
It's like a Highlander.
What was the show? What was the show with the dude that kept going back in history? Quantum Leap. Kept on going back.
Groundhog
and
Day
kept on going
too,
back.
Groundhog Day too, he kept
Highlander.
going.
I never
Don't
seen
give me
Groundhog
cloud.
Day.
Groundhog
I
Day
never
was
seen Highlander
the
either.
same day.
Yeah.
Quantum Leap, this brother was
Quantum Leap.
to 1940
Oh, all right.
to the 80s.
All right.
So he was trying to leap back to the
All
day
right.
that he leaped in the first place.
All right.
So he just kept on going back until he got it right. I don't know if he ever got back home or not. I don't know. I ain't seen it in the show, but he was doing some jumping. It says, without a foe, a soldier never knows his strength. And thought must be, what's that?
Nah, that resonates, with something in my life.
Yeah, without a foe, a soldier never knows his strength. So I mean, that could apply to everybody in here because it might come a time when you got to put up a battle and you might have to go stand in front of some magistrate. But until it's time to go stand in front of a magistrate, you don't really know how well you can enunciate this stuff. It might sound good in class because you get in front of, SetenRa, Taj said. So without a foe, you'll never know. Because you can say what you want in front of me, but until you get in front of them, and you get to stumbling and fumbling and farting all over the place. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, so without a foe, a soldier never knows his strength. And thought must be developed by the exercise of strength. And so this carnal nature soon became a foe that man must fight. What's the carnal nature?
Your lower self.
That he might be the strength of Allah made manifest. Let every living thing stand still and hear. Man is the Lord of the plane manifest, of protoplast, of mineral, of plant, of beast. But he gave up his birthright just to gratify his lower self. But man will regain his lost estate, his heritage. But he must do it in a conflict that cannot be told in words. Yea, he must suffer the trials and temptations made manifold. What we talked about last week? Hope, patience. Patience. I know some people don't have it. Some people are developing it. And some people have it. But understand that without it, you ain't gonna get nothing done. Ain't nothing. Everything that we talking about was supposed to be done yesterday. We supposed to just be congregating and having a good time and talking about the harvest and the plant and everything that's what we should be doing. We shouldn't be here talking about the stuff that was supposed to be done yesterday. But it ain't been done. So we gotta show a little bit of patience, do some studying and put in some work. Yeah. So that way when the little baby that just stood up, when she get my age, when she turned 38, she be like, all right, cool. She can just mosey along. Yet he must suffer trials and temptations manifold. But let him know that the cherubim and seraphim that rule the stations of the sun and the spirit of the Almighty Allah who rule the solar stars are his protectors and his guide. And they will lead to victory. Man will be fully saved, redeemed, perfected by the things he suffers on the plane of flesh and on the plane of soul. When man has conquered carnal things, his garb of flesh will then have served his purpose well, and it will fall. There will be no more. When man has conquered carnal things, his garb of flesh will then have served his purpose well, and it will fall. There will be no more. What that mean?
You don't need this.
So-called death.
You don't need a spacesuit. You won't need the spacesuit.
That means you will have advanced or ascended.
Remember that Patrick Swayze movie?
Ghost?
When he had to finish his job or something?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, that resonates to me with this.
Yeah.
Once you finished your job,
Yes.
you move on.
Yes. Like
And
Elizabeth.
otherwise you die and come back. And like Tasha, you be one of them telepathic babies.
It's just lessons, y'all. It's just lessons for you to understand, and then you start to apply at some point. I mean, each one of these you're not going to apply today, but it's going to come a time when you got to say, you know what, let me run back there. And certain stuff applies.
Yes, sir.
Then he will stand untrammeled on the plane of soul, where he must full complete his victories. Unnumbered foes will stand before man on the plane of soul. These he must overcome. Yea, overcome them every one.
Yes, sir.
Thus hope will ever be his beacon light. Excuse me. There is no failure for the human soul, for Allah is leading on and victory is sure.
That's right.
So that means don't give up your fight. That means if you go to one of these tribunals and the magistrate jumps on you today, take it on the chin. Go look at what you did wrong. Regroup. And then go knock his ass out. Man cannot die. The spirit is one with Allah. While Allah lives, man cannot die. When man has conquered every foe on the plane of soul, the seed will have foreopened out, will have unfolded in the holy breath. The garb of soul will then have served its purpose well, and man will need it nevermore. And it will pass and be no more, and man will then attain unto the blessedness of perfectedness and be at one with Allah.
Islam. Islam.
That whole chapter 1 gave me chills when I read it a couple weeks ago, because when I read it the first time, I didn't read it. When I read it a couple weeks ago, I read it, and I read it over and over and over. It took me like an hour to read just that, because I got out my dictionary, because it was words in there like husbandman that I didn't know what I never heard that word in my life. Husbandman. So now you got it on the third page, so you can look it up and see what husbandman means. Because if I don't know what it means, I got to assume that one of y'all not going to know what it means. Yep. So then I put a list of words together, so now you got it. I want to jump over to chapter 3. That's probably on the second page you got before we go into the winter soldiers. That works? Okay. Everybody got chapter 3?
Yes.
Elihu's lessons, the unity of life. Again, Elihu met his pupils in the sacred grove and said, no man lives unto himself, for every living thing is bound by cords to every other living thing. So that means you connected with the plants, you connected with the soil, you connected with the insects, the other animals, and everything else, right? So if I'm connected, I'm connected with all of y'all. I feel a special closeness to all of y'all, right? So if I picked up that dictionary and I came over here and I knocked Mike upside his head, that ain't really showing no type of closeness, no type of bond. It ain't showing no connectivity. So what's that say about people who take rifles and shotguns and bow and arrows and go hide up on cute little stands in the woods and shoot animals?
They're not in tune.
They're not in tune.
Disconnected.
They disconnected. We disconnected. Because that's what? That's mankind.
Yeah.
That was how it was in the movie Avatar.
What's mankind?
Man-like.
Man-like. Not us. Not us. Listen, don't feel no type of way about saying mankind and separating yourself from them, because they do it all the time.
Except for man.
They'll
mankind.
yeah, they'll tell you. They'll tell you, who was it, Neil Armstrong that said that? What did he say? One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
He told you right there.
Yep. I was like, wait a minute, how many aliens is on Earth?
Listen, it wasn't even no small step for us. We've been made that step.
I just understand. I'm like, okay.
Listen, when the dope guns told them it was serious agency, they thought they was drunk. They thought they was crazy until I'll be honest and say, damn, they was right. So it was one giant leap for them. It was
Yeah, because that's the biggest thing they ever done.
yeah.
All of a sudden, stop going.
All of a sudden, they ain't going the first place.
That's a small thing for
You
us.
said the flag with the flags in the
That was
shadow.
in the
No. I'm
desert.
gonna tell you the best thing, the best picture I ever seen from the moon landings. They showed my man on the moon and he was like this, right? But the moon was behind him. You know what I'm saying? So listen. Hey.
No.
Yeah, that's what I laughed. Yeah, they on the moon and they like, yeah, but the moon is in the background behind them. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, well,
That's like the picture of the first camera.
they do all types of stuff in Hollywood, right?
Blunder of the year.
Yeah. Says, blessed are the pure in heart, for they will love and not demand love in return. That's a key concept, because a lot of people will only do things for people if they're going to get something back.
Right.
Somebody said to me a while back, why don't you take the donations from class? Because I don't need it. I take the donations and J.W. Bay tell you they stay right here at the York House. I don't even know, and from day to day, week to week, I don't even know how much we collect. I don't care. What we use it for is if we need it for something. If somebody's in some real trouble and they need some help, they need some financial help, then we try to help them if we can. So I'm standing here and I tell y'all every week I love y'all before we leave. And I'm giving y'all love. I don't expect it back, but I welcome it. I don't do it so you'll praise me. I don't want your praise. I want your understanding. I want your comprehension. I want your desire to get out and make things happen. Well, blessed are the heart. Blessed are the people who do things without the want of something coming back. Always remember that. It's, you know what they say, it's better to give than receive. It ain't bad to receive, though. Somebody, you know, it ain't bad, but it's always good to reach out and extend your hand and give somebody something. Because it's going to come back on you one way or the other. So blessed are the pure in heart, for they will love and not demand love in return. They will not do to other men what they would not have men do unto them. Sound like the Ten Commandments.
No, golden rule. That one, that's the golden rule.
Yeah, but all coming from our ancestors. Moses only came down off the mountain when he found the day that we left. But ain't that one of the Ten Commandments? Something like that. Don't do unto, you know, something like that. The golden rule.
That's the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have others do unto you.
Right, but it's not one of the Ten Commandments. Oh, all right. Show you how much I
That's
remember.
what don't steal, don't kill.
Don't lie.
Okay.
I messed that up when that whole money thing came into it.
The higher self is spirit, clothed with soul, made in the form of Allah. The lower self, did I forget five? I did. There are two selves, the higher self and the lower self. The higher self is spirit man clothed with soul, made in the form of Allah. The lower self, the carnal self, the body of desires, is a reflection of higher self, distorted by the murky ethers of the flesh. The lower self is an illusion and will pass away. The higher self is Allah in man and will not pass away. The higher self is the embodiment of truth. The lower self is truth reversed, and is soul and falsehood manifest. The higher self is justice, mercy, love, and right. The lower self is what the higher self is not. The lower self breeds hatred, slander, lewdness, murders, theft, and everything that harms. The higher self is mother of the virtues and the harmonies of life. The lower self is rich in promises, but poor in blessedness and peace. It offers pleasure, joy, and satisfying gain, but gives unrest, misery, and death. So I'm going to read that again. The lower self is rich in promises, but poor in blessedness and peace. It offers pleasure, joy, and satisfying gain, but gives unrest, misery, and death. What's that make you think about on the top of your head?
I wanted to add on to that. I just thought about the whole
I ain't going to shoot you, put your
the
hands
the drama that all, like, some people say jihad, but the jihad that you will have within yourself, that everyone should have within themselves, the battle of the lower selves, so that your higher self, so the lower self can be subordinate to your higher self.
Could you run it back one more time?
I'll run it back. The lower self is rich in promises, but poor in blessedness and peace. It offers pleasure, joy, and satisfying gain, but gives unrest, misery, and death.
I'm just thinking that means the Lord self is always lying to you, telling you things that really are not true. Are we buying into?
Go ahead, bro.
It made me think of Al Sharpton. When you say rich in promises, rich in promises, and then you go to the end and you say misery, death, unsatisfying gain, and it was about a week or two ago on Morris History and Heritage School. They was talking about when you look at him, you can see he's skinny. It looked like he's about to die any minute.
He looked like he gonna drop off
his skin, like it looked like he's holding on to a thread right now.
Yeah. My man said I was sharp.
This sounds like how we sell ourselves to the lower self. I want to go get a Mercedes Benz, you know, but what do I have to do to get a Mercedes Benz? And normally you're selling your soul to get those joys, pleasures, and all of it. Like Daniel Webster, you know, he sold himself to the devil so that he could have everything that he wanted. And then when he got everything he wanted, he was miserable. Or what he lacked.
So me and D on the same page. What I thought about was the fiat. I thought about the fiat. Let's read it again. I said it loud.
I'm gonna add on to your fiat.
Read the whole thing.
Okay,
read the whole thing.
it says the lower self is rich in promises. The fiat is rich in promises. Get the fiat and we promise you wealth and fame and we promise you all the Mercedes Benzes and all of that, and then you sell your soul to get it. But poor in blessedness and peace.
Yes.
Now, let's think back just over this past year. Just over the past year. Robin Williams shot himself
Yes.
or hung himself or something. A couple of them other stars OD
Yes.
on heroin and things like that.
They got on magazine
So-
about 8 or 9 of them.
Yeah, so even though they rich in fiat and they think they're wealthy, they miserable and they have no peace. How many times you hear about these stars in AA, Narcotics Anonymous, and all of that type of thing? Yeah, so it made me think about the fiat. Hold on a second, I got you. It offers pleasure, joy, and satisfying gain, but gives unrest, misery, and death. That sounds like, let's give Bilal back, he got to go back for me.
No, I just wanted, my question to that was, since that inception of this fiat, before the inception of fiat, the world was dealing in barter, right? The majority, that was the whole true form of commerce, was dealing with
No,
barter,
they
right?
used, before the fiat, they used silver and gold, which is actual lawful money. They used silver and gold. It was just heavy. That's when your boy over there came up with the thought that you put all your gold over here in my basement, I'll give you this little piece of paper and tell you how much it
Yeah,
is.
that's the problem, that's
So,
the,
right. So, but they still use gold. But I mean, even when you go all the way back into your ancient cultures, there was still some form of commerce. There was bartering, but there was some form
Yeah,
of
I'm
commerce.
looking at it from that barter aspect and say, all right, if you have something that's good and I have something that's good, we're not gonna try to devalue each other.
No.
But with the money situation and the fiat, it's all about that. It's all about, well, you know.
It's about how much you can get. I mean, you see that. You see that. I pay attention to sirens. I always did, but even more so now. When I see these policy enforcers and I see these cats, and that's all about fiat. That's all about fiat. And it ain't even going into their pockets. They raping and ravaging you for somebody else.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it breaks down to fiat, but you can look in the paper and see what's happening, because they're saying that they're gonna rebuild these houses and so forth, and they're gonna make these neighborhoods better. At the same time, they're going in and they're taking stuff and supposedly foreclosing.
Yes.
And they're taking these properties and they're using this eminent domain, and they want to take this and they're going to make it nice and so forth, and they have jobs for people because they're taking this stuff and they need a place to store their stuff that they're taking and so forth. So now they have a storage house where somebody that has an old raggedy truck or whatever that has a job, and they have, you know, a couple of Mexicans or something to go in there and do the work. And they have another a foreigner that has the trucking company. That's another job that they, you know, giving people and so forth. And all of this, politicians.
It's created,
They
create the
we gonna
jobs to
give you-
produce fiat.
We're going to give you something good. We're going to give you some nice houses. We're going to change this neighborhood. And they're going to put some sawdust houses together that will last about maybe 10 years before they start falling down around your ankles.
It's all about commerce.
Right?
And you got to know that. You got to know that Albion is full of lower self. It's almost like they don't have no higher self. It's almost like they only got one self, and that's it, just the local self. And don't get me wrong, that's not all of them. Because even the prophet said, the European is helping me, why not you? That's not all of them, but you got some of them out there. You got some of them out there that will cut their own. How many of y'all ever seen a show called House of Cards? Kevin Spacey. You watched that show?
I seen it a while ago.
Y'all should check that show out. It just show how grimy they are in D.C. Kevin Spacey had another guy running for governor. He's the majority whip of the House of Congress. And he had a guy from Pennsylvania running for the governor of Pennsylvania. So the guy, you know, started smelling himself like, it's almost like me standing up here and I'm like, listen, Taj, ain't anybody trying to hear that crap you talking, this is my class. So then what Taj gonna do, Taj gonna check me. Taj gonna say, listen boy, you don't know as much as you think you might know. Taj gonna tell me I forgot more than you remember. So this is what